Hello everyone, welcome to my new CSS Grid tutorial video, and today I'm going to show you how to use the grid template shorthand property. So this shorthand property enables you to define your grid rows, your grid columns, and your grid areas all at the same time. So we went through each of these properties individually in previous tutorials to define your rows, columns, and areas, and today I'm going to combine all of this by using this shorthand property. So what you see here, these grid items with blue backgrounds, are what I'm going to turn into a realistic website grid layout in a few moments. So first of all, I need to state that you don't have to define your rows, columns, and areas all at once. That is something that you can do, define all the three at once, but it's not a requirement. You can just go for your grid rows and grid columns if that's what you really need to do. So now I'm going to write the values for the rows and columns only. So you will need to first of all specify the values for your rows, then you will need to add a / and then specify the values for your columns. So now I'm going to replace these that I just wrote with proper values. Okay, so let's say I wanted my first row to be 100 pixels and my second row to be 300 pixels. Okay, and I'm going to have 3 columns now, so I'm going to write 3 separate values, and let's say I want the first one to be 1 FR, the second one to be 3 FR, and the third one, to be 2 FR. Alright, so now we have our grid, okay, all in one CSS declaration. By the way, I have a width of 700 pixels for this grid, okay. So now it's time to see how we can actually write different values. As you can see here, I have pixels right here, but then I have FR units right there. So you can actually mix, okay, whatever you can write with the individual grid template columns and grid template rows properties. You can also use them here, okay. So for instance, I can say that I want percentages, okay. I already have a width defined here, so I'm probably going to show you how to do that with the columns only, okay. We don't want to waste too much time. So let's say I maintain this, okay, 200 pixels and 500 pixels right there. Okay, now I want my FR units to be replaced with percentage values, and I want the first one to be 20%, and the second one to be 50%, and the third one will be 30%. Okay, so there we have it. All right, I can make this more apparent by maybe having this as 60 and this as 20 as well. Okay, all right, so now you get the idea how it works. I could also use repeats if I wanted. For instance, let's say I wanted 2 columns only and I wanted it 40 60. I could also use something like this, repeat 3. I want 3 rows and I want each of them to be 300 pixels. Okay, maybe this is too much, let's make it 2. Okay, and now we have our grid as we defined it. So the other important thing to know how to do is to use grid areas right here. Okay, so in my code there, if I scroll down to my CSS, I have these values that I've commented out. Now I'm going to uncomment them, and if you're on CodePen, we have a shortcut which is Control /. So I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to uncomment all of these because we need them. And in the previous tutorial, we went through the grid area property. Okay, if you do not know how to use this, I'll try and add a link on this video that you can click and just refer back to that video and come back to this one whenever you're ready. So now I'm going to clear all of this here, and then I'm going to add the grid areas, the grid rows, and the grid columns. Okay, so now we're going to have 4 rows right here. So that's how it's going to work. Okay, 4 rows. Then I'm going to add a /, and after that we're going to specify the we're going to define our columns. Okay, So here's how it's going to work. Anytime we define one row using the grid areas, okay, we need to add a value. Well, we don't need to, but in this case, that's what we want to do because we are allowed to do it. We're going to add a value for the rows, okay? So let's say we want this row to be 100 pixels. We're going to add this right here, okay? So that's the syntax, all right? I'm just doing this to simplify this for you, okay? So I'm going to have like area 1, area 2, and so on. And then I have a value here like 50 pixels. And I repeat that when I'm done. I'm going to add the / and add the columns, okay? So let me clear this out and have the actual values. So here I named item 1 header. That's the name that I associated to my item 1, which is header right here in the HTML code. So header nav main. In this case, I want a 2-column grid, okay? So I'm going to have here quotation marks. Then I'm going to have header, and I want this to be 100 pixels. Then I want the second row to be the nav. So I'm going to have nav. I want this to be 60 pixels. Oh, and by the way, I added a semicolon. Make sure you don't add any semicolon in your code here for this declaration until you're done. So the semicolon only comes at the very end. It should come here, okay? But then right now we're not done, so don't add anything. So 60 pixels here. Then I'm going to have the main on one side in the first column, and the second column is going to have the sidebar. Let me just double check that the names I'm using are actually correct. Header, nav, main, sidebar. Yep. Then I'm going to have 2 full rows. One row below that is going to be the ads section and then the footer section. So let's go and do that now. Okay, the main, I'm going to use the min-max function, which by the way we covered in the previous tutorial. So I'm going to try and add a link to that as well. So min-max, I'm going to say the minimum should be 250 pixels and the maximum should be auto. Okay, now I'm going to have the ads, which is going to span across the 2 columns, and I want this one to be 60 pixels like the nav bar, and I'm going to have a footer which is also going to span across the 2 columns, and I want this one to be 80 pixels. Okay, now we're not going to add the semicolon just yet. We need to add the / symbol and then specify the columns. So here, when we were writing the grid area names, we were using we had in mind 2 columns, right? A 2-column grid. So here we're going to specify the 2 columns. Remember, we also have a width specified here, 700 pixels. So in this case, I'm just going to say I want 3 FR and 1 FR like this. Okay, and I'm going to close it with a semicolon. And you can see that our grid layout comes up very nicely. Okay, so I'm going to add some sample Lorem Ipsum text just to show you how this works, you know, because of our min-max function. So here in the main, I'm going to go to the next line, add some default Lorem Ipsum, let's say 200 words. So I can just type Lorem 200 and press tab. And now we have this right here. Okay, so it stretches out properly because of the min-max function. Okay, so auto makes it stretch as much as it needs to accommodate the content that we have, all right, the content size. So that's pretty much how it works. Okay, I'm gonna clear this. We don't actually need the sample text right here. And I hope this video was useful to you. If you want to know more about how we use the grid template property, I recommend you also go on the Mozilla Developer Network, MDN, for any updates or more about the specs. All right, so it's really important you check also different sources if you want to be a proper web designer, to have different techniques and all that. But in this video, I believe I've showed you the basic or the foundation, you know, how to use the grid template property to speed up your work. Okay, so of course you can have grid templates columns, grid templates rows, etc. These are allowed. These are standard CSS grid properties. But then you see the grid templates as a shorthand can actually save you some time when you need to craft out very complex grids in a short amount of time. Okay, so that's how it works basically. I think I'm going to end it here, but then before I leave, kindly check my other videos, because this is actually a CSS grid tutorial series. Okay, if you check the title, you will see a number. I've had some previous videos where we went through different properties, grid properties in the past. So I'm going to continue this series and cover other stuff like justify contents, etc. Okay, for better control over your grid items and the contents that they have. So please also subscribe to this channel for updates about my upcoming videos. I try to post as much as I can, as many times, okay, during a single week. And please like this video, share it, and make sure you drop your questions or anything you have to say in the comment section. I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. And in the meantime, I'll catch you next time. Bye.